This episode is brought to you by Liquid IV. Want to stay hydrated this summer? Liquid IV has you covered with 3 times the electrolytes of leading sports drinks and 8 vitamins and nutrients. It's perfect for a hot day on the go with a huge variety of flavors like sugar-free white peach and raspberry melon. Just 1 stick of Liquid IV in 16 ounces of water delivers superior hydration to water alone. Get 20% off your first order of Liquid IV when you go to liquidiv.com and use code COMMAND at checkout. Liquid IV. Tear, pour, live more.
Greetings, humans. You have entered the Command Zone, your destination for all aspects of Elder Dragon Highlander. Enjoy your stay.
I'm waiting for you.
The dog days are over. The dog days are done. Can you hear the squirrels? 'Cause here they come. Da, da, da. All right. That's right. Squirrels are coming. It's time for the Command Zone podcast as well.
The dog days are over.
Yeah.
The squirrel days are coming.
Because Bloomburrow's here, and we're doing a Precon reveal and upgrade. I'm your host, Jimmy Wong.
How's it? It's Josh Leakwise. Certainly, we did not spend the last 15 minutes trying to figure out that song and
then
what
we
the hell
nailed
song to sing.
it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, Florence.
Wow. Well, for all the people out there who are like, I missed the singing, maybe you should rethink that. Okay.
Yeah.
Bloomburrow's almost here. We have the, what's it called? The
Squirreled Away
Precon that we are revealing on this episode. As always, we are going to go through all of the new cards, all of the reprints. We are going to name every single card. We're going to do... This one's a
little bit of stats.
Yeah, this one's a little bit different. We're going to break down the stats, reprint value, everything else. And then also, at the end... If you want to stick around, we're going to do the upgrade for this deck in the end. In the past, we've done 2 different videos, and it always felt weird. There's a reveal and an upgrade.
Yeah.
Let's just combine those into one thing. So if you're only here for the reveal, that'll be the first half of the video. In the second half, Jimmy has gone through and, picked
10
the 10
in, 10 out.
Yep, 10 in, 10 out for under $50. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we're going to talk about the value. We're going to talk about the ins and outs afterwards. But there's a lot of information in this video.
Yep.
You want to stick around. We're going to show every single card from the deck as well at the end of the first half. Before we get into it, let's talk about our sponsors, because if you want to pick up this Precon or any of the other 3 Precons,
Squeak.
they're all incredible. They look really, really, really good. You can go to cardkingdom.com/command. This might be the most anticipated Precons of the year, I think, because Bloomburrow has a lot of hype around it. The cards are so cute. There's tons of great alternate treatments, but you can also just pick all that up and more. And if you're going to build a brand new deck, get a Precon for your friends, play the Precon environment at cardkingdom.com/command. They've got sealed product, they got singles, they got stuff in every level of quality, all the different versions. And the best part is when you buy it all, it comes to your house in one convenient package. So you can just take those cards right out, sleeve them up, put them into a deck, and get playing immediately, which is one of the best things to do when a new set comes out, especially one like this, which I think is going to be great for new players, has a ton of entry points, and also is just going to be fun for old players that love a little bit of a fun, cute time when the dog days are over.
Yep. Again, cardkingdom.com/command. And then once you get that stuff, you want to keep it protected. You want it to be in good condition. You also want it to look awesome when it's on your battlefield. ULTRAPRO is the game accessories brand that Jimmy and I trust our own collections to here at the Command Zone. They have the IP with Wizards, so they're going to have Bloomburrow themed playmats, deck boxes, sleeves. There is also a really cool new product line they've just come out with called Mana 8.
So cool.
Yeah, I love this stuff. It is stark white with the mana symbol and some other logos on it. If you have a deck with red in it, green in it, blue in it.
Any of the colors.
Black, I was going to name them. Or even 5-color. They have a product for you, and it does look really, really cool when you have sleeves, deck box, and playmat all in that Mana 8 theming. We were at Amsterdam. I saw that a couple of times.
We signed a bunch of the playmats that were the Mana 8 ones.
And you could just catch that stuff. Your eye would just catch it from like across the room almost of like, you could. Yeah. You'd be like, whoa, that board looks sweet. And it's like, 30 feet away, but I can just, it just stands out.
Yeah.
So ultrapro.com/command if you want to check out any of that stuff.
And the last way to support the show is directly at patreon.com/command-zone. We love our patrons. We do all sorts of things. Sometimes they get to have an opinion or a say in what the next topic of the episode is for our draft episodes. Other times we'll poll them. We'll talk to you all on our Discord and answer questions. And at certain tiers, you also get exclusive content like turn talks, but every single patron gets to access game nights and extra turns a day early ad-free. So if you want that and more, go to patreon.com/command-zone. We also shout out one lucky patron every single episode. So this episode is dedicated to Sean in the Ice.
Sean,
you rock.
Yeah.
Also, a 3-name last name in the ice.
In the ice. I don't know if that's his legal last name.
You've got Lee Kwai. He's got you beat by one
yeah,
word.
he's definitely beating me.
Josh Lee Kwais is the next one.
All right, let's get to this reveal part. There's going to be a reveal section, then an upgrade section. So we're going to break down the deck.
Yeah.
Show all the new cards, and then talk about reprint value, and then we will name every single card in this deck and show it to you on screen, just in case there's new art or something like that.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about the deck contents, the overall sort of stats of this deck, Jimmy.
So 10 new cards, which is the norm here, including 2 commanders. The face commander you see on the box, Hazel of the Rootbloom, and then another one inside the deck. There are 2 cards from the main set of Bloomburrow. So technically new, but they're not from the commander-specific set. They're just from the main set that are in the deck. There's 71 reprints total, and then 17 basic lands.
Yeah, the 2 new main set cards are technically reprints in these decks.
Right, because the main set will be out at the same time. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so let's just start with Hazel of the Rootbloom, who the box has been revealed for a
already,
while, so this has been out there. It's 2 black-green for a 3/5 legendary creature, Squirrel Druid. Says tap, pay 2 life, tap X, untap tokens you control, add X mana in any combination of colors.
Ooh.
So kind of turns all your tokens into mana rocks.
Potential mana rocks, yeah. Any kind of token, notably.
Yep. At the beginning of your end step, create a token that's a copy of target token you control. If that token is a squirrel, instead create 2 tokens that are copies of it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It doesn't require you make the token this turn. You can just have it on your board. Again, any type of token, creature token, treasure token, food token, you name it. And if it's a squirrel, it gets to be 2x'd.
And then, of course, you will be able to tap those with Hazel's first ability to get extra mana.
Yeah, on that same end step, right? Because they come in, you could technically do an instant speed thing.
I mean, you can do it on other players' turns or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good point. It says you tap the tokens with that first ability. It doesn't give the tokens the ability to tap, so it will get around Summoning Sickness as well.
Yeah, Hazel is the only thing that needs to tap there.
Yeah.
So pretty powerful stuff, like a mana rock, basically, on a very powerful mana rock on the commander here.
Yeah, it's not just giving mana, it's giving a ton of mana, but also is doing another thing. I want to spoil something for game nights, which is that Olivia Gobert-Hicks plays this commander. As you would expect, Olivia.
The Squirrel Queen herself.
She's known for her affinity to artifacts and squirrels.
That's right.
Yeah, and so she built a brand new deck around this. She used some pre-con pieces maybe, but she brewed it from scratch. But this is the commander she's playing.
Yeah, very cool.
On the upcoming episode with DrLupo as the 4th guest.
Yeah, lots of spoilers.
Yeah, spoilers.
Spoiler alert, Josh and I are in that episode. Okay, the next card is the second commander in the deck, so it's also a black-green card. It's the Odd Acorn Gang. It's 3 black and a green for a 5/5 legendary creature, Squirrel Warrior. Although I think I see 3 warriors on this card here. So this has Menace, Trample, and Reach. So that's all 3 of them are doing it together. Squirrels you control have tap, target squirrel gets +2/+2 and gains trample until end of turn. Activate only as a sorcery. And then whenever 1 or more squirrels you control deal combat damage to a player, draw a card. So this is the squirrel themed. While Hazel doesn't necessarily care about squirrels, it seems it's more about creating cool tokens. The Odd Acorn Gang wants to have a lot of squirrels in the deck because it gives each squirrel the ability to tap and give +2/+2 and trample. So pretty strong. Obviously the Odd Acorn Gang probably doesn't want to be doing this because it has Menace, Trample, and Reach. So this guy wants to be attacking. But then the drawing cards is very valuable too. So the Trample is very relevant in that case.
Yeah, and we'll get into this later. This deck is not entirely squirrel themed as far as making a lot of squirrels. Yeah. So I don't think it's probably realistic that right out of the box you're going to want to run the Odd Acorn Gang as your commander. It's probably Hazel, but again, we'll get into that later. All right. There are 8 more new cards that are not the 2 Golgari legendary creatures in here. The first one is Gourmand's Talent. It's a saga. It is a green for an enchantment. Sorry, it's not a saga. It's a class.
Yeah, class. They're back from Baldur's Gate was the last time we saw them, right?
Yeah, it's green for an enchantment class. During your turn, artifacts you control are foods in addition to their other types and have pay 2, tap, and sacrifice this artifact, gain 3 life.
Cool.
And then you can level it to level 2 for 2 and a green. And then it says, whenever you gain life for the first time each turn, create a 3/3 green raccoon creature token.
Oh.
And then to get it to level 3, costs you another 3 and a green once it's at level 2. And then it says, whenever you gain life for the first time each turn, put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control.
Okay, so each turn, during your turn, your artifacts become foods, and then you feed the food to something, and then a raccoon shows up, which is kind of funny.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you throw the food out there and you get a 3/3, and it's a big, creature.
Yeah.
And then you start putting 1/1 counters on it and making 3/3s. So
yeah.
Cool.
Fun stuff. We haven't seen classes in a while. The old ones were really powerful, so cool to see that back here. Next up, we have Hazel's Brewmaster. This is 3 and a black for a Squirrel Warlock. It's a 3/4 with Menace. Whenever Hazel's Brewmaster enters or attacks, exile up to 1 target card from a graveyard and create a food token. Foods you control have all activated abilities of all creature cards exiled with Hazel's Brewmaster.
Wow.
So if you exile any card, even it's like a tap ability card, or like, for instance, the Odd Acorn... Oh, no, sorry, not the Odd Acorn Gang. Like any card that has an ability on it, an activated ability, like the next card we'll read, your foods now have those abilities, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, very cool. I'm sure there's going to be some combo-tastic stuff you can do with that.
Yeah, and when Hazel's Brewmaster enters, you don't actually have to exile a card. You get to make a food token no matter what.
All right, the next new card is Insatiable Frugivore?
Frugivore? Yeah,
I was going to say frog, but it's not a frog.
It's eating fruit.
There are frogs in the set, but there's not. Yeah. Frugivore. 3 and a black for a 2/4 rat berserker. When Insatiable Frugivore enters, create a food token. Then you may exile 3 cards from your graveyard.
Whoa.
If you do, repeat this process. So you'd make another food and exile another 3 cards from your graveyard.
Yeah.
And then
you can exile another 3 cards. You definitely make another food token, and then it says, can you exile 3 more? If you do, then do it again.
Yeah. If you do, repeat this process, which is the may part.
Yeah.
Okay, and then it's 3 and a black, sacrifice X foods. Creatures you control get +X/+O and gain menace until end of turn.
Okay.
So you make those 2 foods, and then this turn or some time later, you pay that 3 and a black, you sacrifice at least the 2 foods that you got.
Yeah.
And you sort of pump your team and make them hard to block.
Yeah, not so great in the early game when you may not even be able to make 2 foods because you have no cards in your graveyard, but in the end game, let's say you've got 20 cards in there, you could just pop out 6 food tokens, which is kind of a big deal, especially if you're low in life.
I mean, you get to create the food, and then it says you may exile 3 cards from your graveyard. You don't have to.
Yeah. But
you don't get the second food unless you did the 3 exiles. Yeah.
I will say that anytime that happens in games, I'm like, for sure I'll have 3 cards in my graveyard. You're like, I've got
it's way harder than you think.
Evolving Wilds in there. Dang it, yeah.
Especially on a precon where you weren't able to put in a bunch of like sort of fetchy. Because if you know you're running that card, you want to run as many fetch lands as you sort of
fetch lands, yeah, just like you're running your
cyclers and stuff.
Yeah, cyclers, yeah. All right, next up we have the Moonstone Eulogist, 3 black for a Bat Warlock. This guy looks really cool, by the way.
Very cool. Scary.
Yeah, very scary. 4/4.
Most of the set is cute, but not this card.
Yeah, he's got a cool staff too. It kind of reminds me of a character you play in the video game. It's a 4/4 flyer. Whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, you create a blood token. Very cool. So blood tokens are an artifacts with pay 1, tap, discard a card, sack the artifact, draw a card. And then whenever you sacrifice an artifact, put a 1/1 counter on Moonstone Eulogist and you gain 1 life. So this could be food tokens, this could be treasures, but gaining life and getting counters on it, this will be a huge creature. And then anytime an opponent creature controls dies, you make a blood token, which is awesome. There's no limitation on how many gets created. A board wipe would create a lot of blood tokens for you.
Yeah, something that just says you get a thing, like a piece of cardboard, when your opponent's creatures dies, you're going to be able to use that in interesting ways. That's what I think Rachel calls those tchotchke decks. I call them artifactocrats decks, but that's going to fit into a lot of that type of stuff.
Yeah.
All right, the next new card is Rootcast Apprenticeship. 3 and a green for a sorcery. You choose 3.
Ooh.
You may choose the same mode more than once. So here are your choices. Put 2 1/1 counters on target creature.
Okay.
Or create a token that's a copy of target token you control. Or target player creates a 1/1 green squirrel creature token.
Target opponent or player?
Target player.
Okay.
And then the last one is target opponent sacrifices a non-token artifact. So you get 3 of these, and you can do the same one all 3 times if you want to.
Wow, making someone sacrifice 3 non-token artifacts.
It's kind of brutal.
Brutal, yeah. But even just one sometimes will do a lot of work.
Yeah, and if you cast this, early in the game, it might be worth it to be like each of you sacrifice one of your mana rock spaces.
Yeah. That's
and it says
cool.
Non-token, so they can't get around it with like, this treasure goes.
Yeah. And it kind of has a redundant ability for Hazel with also copying a token you already control, which is nice.
Yeah. The downside is later in the game when they have a lot of different artifacts to choose from, you're not going to get their best one.
Yeah.
Like they're like, I'll keep my Skull Clamp and get rid of my Arcane Signet. It's turn 8.
Like, darn it. Like, I'll make 3 copies of a token instead. All right, next up we got Scurry of Squirrels, 2 and a green for a 2/2 with Myriad, Myriad. So this means it's going to trigger twice when it attacks. When this creature attacks for each opponent other than defending player, you may create a token that's a copy of this creature that's tapped and attacking that player or a planeswalker they control, and then you do it again. So if I'm attacking Josh and I have 2 other opponents, I make 2 Scurry of Squirrels attacking each of them.
That's crazy. Okay.
And then it says whenever Scurry of Squirrels deals combat damage to a player, put a 1/1 counter on target creature you control.
So you can put it all in like the original, make it easier to attack, and then just kind of keep doing this.
Yeah, I mean, the only problem is that it's a 2/2 for 3 mana, and you need to have someone that's open that's not going to just stick a 3/3 or something in front of it, or even trade, right?
And the other 2 player also have to have at least like not 2 creatures that are bigger than that.
Yeah, but at least you don't care if those copies of the Scurry dies, but you don't want the original one to go away for sure.
But of course, if you have things out there that sort of trigger when creatures enter the battlefield for you, or when they die, then it becomes a lot better off.
Yeah, you get 5 or 4 triggers every time.
Yeah, that creature represents 4 new creatures coming into play potentially every turn. Yeah. All right, 2 more new cards to go. This one is Swarmyard Massacre. Wonder what this is going to do. 3 black for a sorcery. Create 2 1/1 green squirrel creature tokens. Then each creature that isn't an insect, rat, spider, or squirrel gets -1/-1 until end of turn. For each creature you control that is an insect, rat, spider, or squirrel.
Wow.
So if you've got 5 squirrels, then you'll give each non-insect, rat, spider, or squirrel -5/-5 until end of turn.
Pretty powerful. And you're guaranteed at least 2, because you're going to create 2 from the actual card.
Right, so this will give -2 for sure, and potentially more, and potentially be very one-sided.
Yeah. We do love a one-sided board wipe, but that does mean that you have to make basically a tiny creatures deck.
Yeah, but if you're a squirrel, insect, rat, there's a lot of rat decks. That's what I'm thinking. Like this card's gonna be a little bit brutal.
Rat
decks.
My gosh, of course, because they have like 15 relentless rats out there.
Yeah, and a lot of times you're like, okay, there's 7 or 8. I'm not gonna die, and then they go play this. Yes, you are.
Yep, and there's some rats in this deck as well too. So, next up we have a really fun one. It's Sword of the Squeak. Kind of like the Meek.
Sort of the Meek, yeah.
Yeah, so it's a 2 mana artifact equipment with equip 2. Equipped creature gets +1/+1 for each creature you control with base power or toughness 1. So that's before modifications if it's just a 1/1, which is all your squirrels. And then whenever a hamster, mouse, rat, or squirrel you control enters.
Hamster?
Yeah, I guess there's some hamsters in Bloomburrow, spoiler. You may attach Sword of the Squeak to that creature. So it auto-equips to a tiny little creature, yeah. Hilarious. Very fun card, and it could be like 2 mana equipment that gives your card like, +10/+10, depending on what your board state looks like.
I don't know if this is true, but it feels like that's a card where you come up with a name and then figure out what it does.
Yeah. If someone comes up with the name, everyone goes, we have to make it.
We got to make that. What to do?
Yeah, design's like, yeah, we can do that. We can make that happen.
All right, those are the 10 new cards in the deck. So now we're going to talk about the reprints and the reprint value.
All right.
Remember that we always are talking about the reprint value at the time we are recording this episode, which is before the deck's revealed. As soon as we start naming cards, prices start going down because they've been reprinted. But
Driven off the lot.
Yeah, but of course, there's no way for us without a time machine to know what those prices are going to land at. So we're just going to use the reprint value as of now.
Yeah,
which is what we've always done in the past. So that comparison works. And basically, what we can tell you is how this precon looks in comparison to precons of the past. Not necessarily these number values are like hard and fast actual numbers that like matter.
Yeah, they're simulation numbers.
There you go.
We also don't know what the new cards that we just named are going to be selling for. So that is also not factored in. It's just the 71 reprints.
Okay, so keep in mind, this deck is currently pre-ordering for about $45.
Okay.
The average reprint value for sets in the past, just for comparison, Murders at Karlov Manor was an average of 168, which is very high.
Very, very high.
Almost probably one of the highest we've ever seen.
Yep.
As far as averages.
Fallout was a little different. There was a ton of new cards in there, so it was hard to actually gauge this, but it was much lower at about $76 per average precon.
Yeah, I think Fallout decks often had like 30 plus new cards.
Yeah,
and that obviously means there's less reprints and less reprint value because a lot of value's in the new cards.
Yep.
Outlaws of Thunder Junction was 130.
Which is still decent and up there in terms of height.
Yeah, it's going to be the lowest on this list, but I think we would be happy with that number.
Yep. Modern Horizons 3 was 167, almost 168, so basically what MKM was at.
Yeah, but remember, those decks were a little bit more pricey.
Yep.
And then this deck, drum roll please.
Currently pre-ordering for about $45.
$174.25.
Okay. That's
very high.
So this is now, we can call this a trend now, I think. I've seen this over the last, 4 or 5 sets now?
Almost the entirety of this year has been good. Outlaws of Thunder Junction a little low, but still for previous years, the Outlaws of Thunder Junction number would be high and we'd be very happy with it.
Yeah.
We saw our highest ever reprint value in above $200 in a Precon this year. It feels like it's kind of safe to say that there's been a philosophy change of some kind within the walls of Wizards, and they are giving more reprint value out in these Precons, which we've been asking for years and is super sweet.
And it's so easy for them to do it as well by just lowering the number of basic lands, adding in a couple of those lands that just fit into other decks really easily. And so that's like a tip of the hat nod. Like,
hell yeah.
Great.
$174 for $45. Like,
yeah.
It's hard not to be happy about that. Pretty great.
Yeah. And when we name some of these reprints too, you're going to go, wow, because there's some really fun ones.
They're real cards that you
real
get
cards.
played. Yeah. That you want.
Not simulation cards, real cards. Okay, we also do something called Bang for Your Buck, which is an incredible addition to these episodes because now we're saying, hey, for each dollar you spend, how much are you going to get sort of for reprint value, which is another way of looking at it, another way of sort of gauging where you're at. Yeah,
this kind of corrects for the varying prices of the Precons because they're not always the same.
Yeah, exactly. So going back to Mirrors of Karlov Manor, this was about $3.73 per dollar that you spent there. So again, pretty good 1 to 3.
Yeah, Fallout $1.27. Again, that one looks way worse than it is because it had so many new cards. It's sort of like Doctor Who. Yeah, so there was fewer reprints.
Outlaws of Thunder Junction was almost at $3 at $2.90.
And look at that in comparison to the next one. And that really shows you what the bang for the buck kind of shows you.
Yeah, because Modern Horizons 3, even though it had around $170 reprint value, for bang for your buck was actually $2.29 because the Precons just naturally pre-order for a much higher price because it's a Modern Horizons set.
Yeah, I think they were priced higher from Wizards out of distribution is what it seemed like. Yeah, so even though that raw number of what you got was higher, the bang for your buck was maybe a little lower.
Yep.
And then so Squirreled Away is actually going to be the highest number we see on this list, which is $3.87 for each dollar you spend.
Assuming you spent $45 on it, which is what's pre-ordering for right now. So that's great. Yeah. It means that the reprint value is going to be very high, and the cards individually means there's going to be a good number of them as well, which we're going to get right into, because the notable reprints here are awesome.
And like you said, a trend, we keep saying, hey, that's the highest number we've seen, or among the highest.
Keeps going.
Yeah, it's great. I hope they keep that trend up. By 2027, it'll be $11 per dollar spent.
Woohoo! All right, so notable reprints. These, we are only talking about the ones that are worth $5 or more, and there are 10 in this deck.
This is, again, another trend. We used to see there would be like 3 or 4.
3 or 4, yeah.
Yeah, now there are 10. And there are, 2 above 15.
Yeah.
There are 4 above 10. Like, this is great. Okay.
And there are always, of course, a couple of cards on here that are like, oh, it shouldn't be that much, but it just hasn't seen any reprints yet. So this is just a great way to have more of those enter into the market.
Yeah, okay. So the first one, which was at $17 until just now when we say the name of it, it's Beledros Witherbloom.
Oh.
Which is a heck of a card.
One of the best Strixhaven cards of the whole set. Allows you to untap lands by paying life. Nuts. Absolutely nuts.
Yep.
And very powerful and reprinted finally.
Yep.
The next one is from the last unset, and it's one of my favorite cards that has ever gotten printed because you never cast it on your opponent's creatures. It's Saw in Half, which is hilarious in a deck that's trying to make token copies of stuff.
Yep.
You're sawing them in half. But that was at $17.
Yep.
Because I guess that set wasn't too open, and it was the only time that saw print.
Yeah, this is great. It gives you a high-impact, valuable token to copy.
Yeah, and again, this card goes in any deck that has ETB creatures, right? Because you just saw in half your own thing, get 2 triggers. Really amazing.
The next card was at $12 until just now. It's Chatterfang Squirrel General.
Oh, yeah.
Very popular commander.
Probably the most popular squirrel commander until maybe Hazel and the Acorn Gang.
Do you think it will get unseated?
Well, so this is kind of like the Gishath versus the other big dino that untaps lands.
Zakama,
right? Because it's like Gishath is a much better dinosaur commander, but Zakama is just a commander, yeah. And so I think that's kind of what we're seeing here with Hazel.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yep.
Next up, we have Swarmyard. This is like one of those cares about all sorts of different creature types. Just an old land that was at $11. And that card's actually, I think, going to hold its value because of this set alone is going to make that card way more relevant.
Generally, the cards that are up there in the $10 echelon always will creep back up because they have pretty broad appeal.
Yeah.
The next one definitely fits that. Yeah, it's one of the more powerful cards in Magic. And we've seen it creep all the way down to like $2-3, and then just if they don't reprint it for like a year,
Instantly.
it's just back up to 10 before you know it. It's Skull Clamp.
Yeah, there's like 20 versions, or like 10 or something versions of this card now. Kind of like
crazy.
Soul Ring, which is nuts. It's just always up there.
We always say, hey, if Skull Clamp's in your deck, it's probably one of the best cards in your deck, and
Yeah.
let me tell you, it's one of the best cards in this deck.
Yeah, for sure. Next up is a card that actually was one of our preview cards a long time ago.
Yep.
It's Second Harvest. So this
That thing was $10? It's $9.50.
Yeah, $9.50. But it's great. Doubles every single token that you have. Very, very powerful. Can completely swing a game in your favor out of nowhere.
Next is a Rachel Weeks OG card.
Yeah.
It's Toski, Bearer of Secrets. That was all the way up at $7.
Yeah. Again, card draw, indestructible. Very, very good. Next up is a card that's very good in any type of deck. It's Maskwood Nexus, which was at $6.50.
Another card that was at $6.50 and sort of an alternate Craterhoof
Yep.
win condition, Beastmaster Ascension.
This is like I recall this being the first win con that ever just stomped me way back in the day. I was like, what is that card? I can't believe it.
Yeah, I think Craig killed me with it, and I didn't realize, like, oh, on the turn that you attack with the 7
You
creatures,
get the +5/+5. Yeah.
that happens now.
Yeah. And the next one's a really interesting one. It's Haywire Might.
I had no idea this had gone all the way up to $5.
$5. Yeah, this is an uncommon from a recent set, and it's just one of those really useful removal pieces that can also be a creature, gain you, I think, a little bit of life as well. Super cheap to get down and just sits there. You know, we've seen it with like the Cathar Commandos and stuff.
Yeah.
Like cards like these are just very good in commander decks.
Okay, so that is the reprint value, the notable reprints. I think it's fair to say that it's very, very good. Yeah, we've got a note here that there's also a Bloomburrow shifted Garrick Cursed Huntsman.
Yeah.
And the art on it, you'll see, I'm not sure, is it a bear, a badger?
I don't know. Either way, it's a Garrick type creature.
Yeah, and
A lot of the Planeswalkers are getting this cool treatment, Liliana and all that stuff, as an animal version, a Bloomburrow shifted version of them. So that also may hold some value. We don't know exactly what yet.
it certainly will have its own sort of price trajectory because it's unique among,
unique art. It's super cute.
Yeah.
Or scary.
And people are probably going to want to have all of those versions of Planeswalkers similar to they did with the anime ones and things like that. So, yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if that jumps up on the reprint list as well. We just don't know the price yet because it's a very special case.
Yeah, its reprint value will be more predicated on the uniqueness of the art than the card.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so that's...
It's a good card, though.
Yeah, just to wrap up the reprint discussion, I think just everything about it is very good.
Yeah. Big 2 thumbs up.
Yeah.
Right? Roger and Ebert thumbs up from Josh Lee Kwan, Jimmy Wong. Here.
Wow, throwback.
Throwback, yeah.
Does anyone-
People
yeah.
were like, thumbs up.
Yeah.
Isn't that what you do on Facebook posts? That's a throwback,
They're
I
like
guess.
Siskel and Ebert. Hey, listen, if you know who even that is in the comments, please let us know.
Please let us know.
Okay, before we move on to the upgrading of this deck, which is going to be the second half of this episode, we are going to go through and read off the remainder of the reprint cards in this Precon, and we will show them on screen. That way you can just get a look at every single card that's in here.
Yeah, and a lot of them have new Bloomburrow style art as well, which again may increase their value, but we don't know because we are just revealing it. So we'll let you know, and you'll see it on screen here when it has some new cool Bloomburrow art.
All right, in alphabetical order, the first one is a really good one, Academy Manufactor.
And the token deck sounds real
Pretty
good.
good.
Next up is another token maker. It's Arasta of the Endless Web. Makes a bunch of 1/2s.
Next one is Arcane Signet, which has a new Bloomburrow style art.
Love that. And then we got Baron Moor, which is a cycling land.
Bastion of Remembrances next. A little bit of aristocrats going on. Yep.
Binding of the Old Gods, an old saga that is good at removal.
Next is an oldie but a goodie, a staple, Bojuka Bog.
Yeah, I love that. The next up is Cash Grab, which is one of those mill cards, return a permanent to your hand. That's one of the main set cards from Bloomburrow.
Yeah, technically a reprint, but kind of a new card from Bloomburrow.
Yeah.
The next one is Casualties of War. This also has new art.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Chatterstorm is next, a Squirrel Storm card.
After that is Chittering Witch.
Rats. And then Chitter Spitter, another 1/1 maker.
We were chitter. It's a squirrel deck.
It's a squirrel deck, yeah. Although Chittering Witch makes rats, I believe. Yeah, right, yeah.
But they're like, whatever, it says chittering.
It's chittering, yeah.
After that is Command Tower, and it also has new Bloomburrow style.
You're sort of seeing a pattern with which cards are heavy.
Yeah, they picked out some staples and we're like, let's give those.
Deadly Dispute, great way to draw some cards with your low tokens.
After that is a board wipe, Decree of Pain.
Okay, and then another Squirrel Maker, Deep Forest Hermit.
pretty good. After that is another sort of win condition, End Raise Forerunners.
Yeah, I love this one. And then we have your regular old Evolving Wilds.
After that is Exotic Orchard, and this also has new Bloomburrow art.
Of course, it's an orchard in a Bloomburrow. Yeah, of course. Gilded Goose. Everyone loves a little goose action. Great card in this deck.
After that is Golgari Rot Farm, the Golgari Bounce Land.
Then Golgari Signet, the Golgari Signet.
And then Grim Backwoods.
And then Haunted Mire. Got a bunch of lands here.
After that is another quote-unquote reprint from the main set. It is Honored DrLupo.
Yeah, it's a fun little card. Just a little creature combat action. And then we have Idol of Oblivion. Great card draw in a deck like this.
After that is Jungle Hollow.
Then Llanowar Wastes, Painland.
After that, we have another new art, which is Maelstrom Pulse.
Ooh.
Yep.
And then Moldervine Reclamation, which is card draw galore in black-green.
After that is Morbid Opportunist.
Less galore, but card draw.
Yep.
Then Nadier's Nightblade, which is definitely a win con, a sort of aristocracy win con here.
After that is Necroblossom Snarl.
Then we have Nested Shambler, make some squirrels.
After that is Ogre Slumlord. Speaking of, there are some rats in the deck.
Yeah, that's a great card.
Yep.
And then we got Urun Reef the Vastwood, great for playing 1/1 counters on your little dudes.
Next up is Path of Ancestry.
And then an Edict effect with Plaguecrafter.
Then Plum the Forbidden.
Oh, you could draw like 20 cards off.
Yeah.
And then you got Poison Tip Archer, again, more aristocrat style action.
Yeah, as we're going through, it's kind of becoming clear there is a lot of aristocrat stuff going on in this deck. Yep. After that is Prosperous Innkeeper, which also has new art.
We got Putrefy, more removal.
Then is Ravenous Squirrel.
And then we have Shamanic Revelation, some card
Another
draw.
card draw, yep. Then is Skyfisher Spider.
Return some stuff from your graveyard. Soul Ring with new Bloomburrow art, of course.
Looks very cool. And then the card that just had to be in here is the first one you think of when you think of squirrels, Squirrel Nest.
Yeah, oldie but a goodie.
Yep.
That card used to actually be worth a lot too before it was reprinted. And then Squirrel Sovereign, another squirrel.
Tainted Wood is next.
Talisman of Resilience, Mana Rock.
Then we have Tear Asunder.
Artifact Enchantment Removal. And then we got Temple of Malady, Scryland.
And then after that we have in new art. Interesting they did this, but not Evolving Wilds.
Yeah, right.
Terramorphic Expanse.
Cool.
So there are a number of fetch lands making that new card that we talked about earlier that cared about number of cards in your graveyard maybe more viable.
Yeah. Then we have Tireless Provisioner. Great way to make some tokens.
Yep. After that is Tranquil Thicket.
Then we got Twilight Mire.
Viridescent Bog.
So many lands. We're loving it. Wind Grace's Judgment.
After that is Woe Strider.
And after that is Wolf Willow Haven.
Then another land, Woodland Cemetery.
And then one more Aristocrats piece, Zulaport Cutthroat.
Yeah, just reading the deck list, it's amazing how it gives you a pretty clear view of what the deck wants to do.
On.
Yeah, it's very aristocratsy. And then there are 17 total basic lands, 9 forests, and 8 swamps.
All right. And of course, if you're not watching the video version of this video, you should, because all those new arts will be showing on screen. And but even by just text alone, like Josh said, you kind of get an idea of what's going on here with the deck.
Yeah, and if you would like to see the full deck list, there is a link in the show notes. You can find that. Just go down below the video or the audio download and find that link, and you can scroll through and look at the cards that way as well.
Squirrel through them.
Scroll them away.
All right. Now, normally this episode would end here, but we have a whole nother Precon upgrade guide coming up right after mid-roll point. So very exciting. You want to do 10 cards in, 10 cards out, budget of $50 to make this squirrel deck even more powerful.
Yeah, if you want to figure out how to make your squirrels really rock, then stick around. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back.
All right, I will untap. I'll draw a card.
Hey, have you guys seen Jimmy in the past 2 weeks?
I think he left with a big backpack and said he had important company business.
Oh, bad news, guys. I went door to door in Burbank and sold almost no Command Zone merch.
Why would you do that? We already sell stuff super easily on Shopify.
Oh, yeah.
Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. Whether you're working out of your friend's apartment or from a full office suite, Shopify is there to help you grow. I mean, you remember, when we started the podcast, we weren't even thinking about merch. But when fans started asking for it, Shopify made it easy. They handled the selling so we could focus on the content. There's a reason Shopify powers 10% of all e-commerce in the US. They've got great customer service, useful tools for your business, and the internet's best converting checkout system. So you never have any trouble turning browsers into buyers.
Man, that's way better than what I was doing.
Wait, did you actually sell anything?
No, but I did see Timothy Chalamet at the gas station.
He didn't see me.
Sneaky Timmy.
Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/TCZ, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/TCZ now to grow your business no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/TCZ.
gosh, the Thunder Junction Jamboree is right around the corner, and I'm supposed to bring everyone presents. Now, when it comes to gifting, your old pal Fibblethip is, unsurprisingly, totally lost. Or at least I was, before I stumbled across gift mode on Etsy. It made finding the perfect gift so easy, I almost didn't believe my eye. Just tap or click gift mode on Etsy and answer a few quick questions about who you're shopping for. Then, it instantly points you in the right direction with curated suggestions based on hundreds of personas. For the beauty guru Ariette, an enchanting personalized hand mirror. For the fitness fanatic Jolene, a custom gym bag she'll treasure forever. And for my favorite foodie, the Gitrog, a curated spice blend to help those arms and legs go down easier. Look, we all know how stressful gifting can be. Will they like what I got? Do they already have it? Which way's the store? Oh God, where am I? But with the independent sellers on Etsy, you can bring the wow factor with a personal touch. So remember, when you're plotting to surprise someone special with a present they'll love, gift mode has you covered. Now, the Jamboree should be just around this. Wait, how'd I get to Amonkhet? Not again!
Need to find the perfect gift? Don't panic. Try gift mode on Etsy now. So, Rachel, do you think that Magic will ever become an Olympic sport?
Maybe. We've already got all the medals, right? We've got gold tokens, silver borders, a bronze walrus.
Yep.
Plus, what's a 4-hour Commander game if not the marathon of tabletop?
And just like in a real marathon, it's important to stay hydrated, especially in those long, grindy games. That's why I always bring with me Liquid IV, which is America's #1 powdered hydration brand. Liquid IV hydrates better than water alone, with 3 times the electrolytes of the leading sports drink, plus 8 vitamins and nutrients.
And hydration isn't just for physical athletes. It's essential for overall health and the mental clarity Magic players need to compete at peak performance.
Liquid IV comes in a ton of delicious flavors like pear or strawberry lemonade that couldn't be easier to tear, pour, and enjoy. So it's the perfect way to up your game whether you're trying to find the right line or training to be an Olympic breakdancer.
Wait, they have breakdancing at the Olympics now? Pretty good.
Yeah, I was going to do a head spin, but I have good hair today.
Oh, that's why.
Turn your ordinary water into extraordinary hydration with Liquid IV. Get 20% off your first order of Liquid IV when you go to liquidiv.com and use code COMMAND at checkout. That's 20% off your first order when you shop Better Hydration today using promo code COMMAND at liquidiv.com. I think it might need more card draw.
Who are you talking to? Or is that just something you say?
Oh, no, I'm on a call with Jimmy. We're building a Chatterfang deck.
Ooh, I just added Toski. That should help, right?
Whoa, the card just showed up.
Yeah, with ARCHIDEKT, you can collaborate in real time from anywhere in the world.
Changes show up immediately. You don't even have to reload the page.
So it's perfect for brewing with a friend.
This is cool, but isn't Jimmy just upstairs?
Yeah, but I'm downstairs right now.
I ain't coming downstairs.
ARCHIDEKT is the best place to browse, brew, and playtest Commander decks. Just go to archidekt.com/commandzone to get started.
That's ARCHIDEKT.com/commandzone.
All right, everybody, we are back and we are doing the Precon upgrade for Squirreled Away, the brand new Precon from Bloomburrow. Squirrels just want to have fun, as it says on the back, and we're going to see what direction we take it.
That's what we should have sang.
Squirrels just want to have fun.
They gave it to us on the back of the box. We're looking at it.
Yeah, but it's not what the actual song's about. I think our Dog Days is Over is quite clever. Okay, before we get into it, let's talk a little bit about the stats. Okay, so in this deck, we have a solid 8 cards that ramp. Notably, the Commander does, so that's why I think it's a little bit less.
Yeah, because that's low. I think we want 12, 13 now.
Yeah, but the Commander does a great job ramping, but it also makes your ramp strategy a little precarious, because if someone kills your Commander, you're set back. We got 10 instances of card draw in the deck.
Which is good.
Yep.
Also still slightly low, maybe?
But one number that's pretty high here is 13 cards that do targeted interaction. So,
which is, I think, on par these days with what we're looking for, what we want.
And then the board wipes is still on the lower side, even though we've sort of been thinking that number is going to creep up slowly. There are 2 board wipes. One of them was the new card that we talked about.
Yeah, and these days, I think that number's low, and I would probably take a little bit of targeted interaction out, maybe 2, and put in 2 more board wipes because of Ward, and mostly because of Ward.
Yeah. And stuff like Decree of Pain is great, too, because it's got that cycling ability on it. Like, there's a lot of, I think nowadays you can choose board wipes that aren't just pure Wrath of God effects.
Yep. And then there are 38 lands total.
All right.
So, and we know that 17 of those are basics, and one of the things we've been saying for a long time, and I think is finally happening, is it's not 25 basics. Like, they actually gave you a lot of good, utility lands and multi-purpose lands in there. So.
Like the filter lands in here, which is great for 2-color decks. Okay, and then some additional stats of what's in the deck. We have 15 cards that are squirrels or make squirrel tokens.
And I alluded to that earlier. That kind of shows that you really want Hazel to be the commander that you're playing out of the box. The Odd Acorn Gang is probably not what you want to run, because if you're running something that's reliant on having squirrels to do anything, then that number of squirrels or squirrel makers needs to be closer to 30 in a deck. So we're about halfway there only.
Yeah, exactly. And because there are 16 cards that create tokens specifically. So your tireless provisioners, your academy manufacturers that care about token creation.
Yeah, remember, Hazel doesn't care that much about squirrels, a little bit, but mostly it's just like, do you have tokens?
Yeah. If so,
I'll make a lot of mana,
Yeah, exactly.
Let's party. There are 4 drain and gain effects, which are kind of the aristocracy pieces, like Zulaport, Cutthroat, and things like that.
And then that's sort of balanced out by 9 effects that give pump abilities. So either giving your whole team menace and +X+O, or sort of the win con Beastmaster Ascension type. And that seems to be the way that they're saying, in addition to the drain effects, you're going to want to eventually swing out for the win.
Yeah, and that's interesting. And I think those last 2 categories are the ones we should probably talk about before we go into the upgrade here, which is, that to me is a fork in the road and sort of a, maybe lack of focus, you could say, of what the deck wants to do. It's like, I want to do a little bit of aristocrats and then a little bit of go wide pump. And generally, those 2 things, you'd rather just choose one and go hard in that direction. Were you thinking that when you did the upgrade, Jimmy?
Yeah, and actually took out one of the aristocrats pieces because it sometimes draws a lot of hate your way.
Interesting.
And if you're trying to solidify your win cons. So for the upgrade goals, I was looking at this deck, and it is definitely split. It seems like, oh, it wants to be squirrel heavy. And then you look at it again, you're like, wait a minute, but we're making all sorts of different tokens and rat tokens. So do I care about a squirrel that gives +1/+1 to all squirrels? Not really.
Right.
And then you have that little bit of mass pump / aristocrats flair in there. So I think what I wanted to do with the upgrade, guys, solidify it, pushing it more a little bit into the unified direction. It's hard to do it with just 10 cards in and 10 cards out.
But you can make it more focused. Maybe you can't make it like optimally focused.
Yeah, and Hazel is definitely the commander choice here. Less focus on squirrels, more on how we're going to create cool tokens, solidify our win cons. And also, I was like, Hazel might be able to make like 10, 20 mana on a turn.
What am I going to do with it?
Yeah, what are you going to do with it? Cast 2 spells? So I put in a couple cards that also make use of the big mana that you get from your commander.
Kind of mana sync stuff?
Yeah, mana sync stuff.
Nice.
All right.
So let's talk about first the fun part, which are the cards you've decided to add to this deck, the 10 cards. Remember, we try and keep it to around a $50 budget, and that is $50 at the time of recording.
Yeah, and I came in at around $40 here, so
under budget.
Yeah, under budget. But I'll talk a little bit about the end about what you could do with that extra if you still want to get up to that 50 and play with that game.
Jimmy's never going to get a government job.
No. Yeah, they're like, oh, you need less money? Well, guess what? You get less. All right, so the first category is just more tokens. I think Hazel's ability to create tokens and also see cool tokens is one of the most powerful parts of the commander outside of just the mana ability. So the first one is a new card that is from Modern Horizons 3. It is an insane card in draft, and I think will be a card that we will see very, very often in regular Magic as well. It's Springheart Nantuko. So this is a 1 in green enchantment creature, insect monk, but more importantly, it gives them the bestow ability of 1 in a green. So you can bestow it, put it on the creature as an enchantment aura, and then when that creature dies, it falls off and just becomes a regular creature.
Makes it a lot harder to remove.
Yeah.
And you can't even get 2 for 1. If they kill the creature in response to the targeting of the aura, then it just lands on the battlefield as a creature.
Yeah. So the cool thing is that when this card is bestowed, the ability on it is incredible. So it has landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you may pay 1 in a green, and if Springheart Nantuko is attached to a creature, you create a token that's a copy of that creature. So if you have an Academy Manufacturer and a Springheart Nantuko bestowed on it, play a land, pay 1 in the green. You can use the land, by the way, to tap for that green.
Yeah.
And then you get another Academy Manufacturer.
Oh, my lord.
And then if Hazel's out, you can create another Academy Manufacturer. If Springheart Nantuko is just off by itself, or you didn't bestow it, then you create a 1/1 insect creature token with that 1 in the green instead. So it's okay if it's by itself.
It's still doing stuff.
Yeah, it's still doing stuff. It gives you an option to create a token and create more mana with your commander, but you ideally want to bestow this on one of your best non-legendaries and just go to town.
Yeah. That's pretty great. And it was only a $6.50 card. I guess only. That's actually quite high.
Yeah, for a card
that just came out.
A regular rare Modern Horizons, which is a really open set. Yeah, which again says,
shows you that.
Yeah.
Hey, making token copies of your stuff is pretty good.
Pretty good, especially with landfall. You don't really have to do much else, right?
Yeah. You can do it the turn you cast it pretty easily.
Very easily, yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, that's a way to make more tokens in the deck. The next up is a card from Lost Caverns of Ixalan that's super low. It's only 50 cents. It's Promise of Aclazots. So this is a 1 in the black enchantment. Do you want to read it?
Sure.
Yeah.
It's an adventure card.
Yeah.
So its adventure side is called Foul Rebirth, which you can cast for 2 in the black. It's a sorcery. and it says sacrifice a non-demon creature. If you do, create a 4/3 white and black vampire demon creature token with flying.
Okay.
So that would allow you to sort of get a big token out there that Hazel can then copy.
Instead
you
of
wouldn't
a
get
rat
two,
or
but
a
it's big.
squirrel. Yeah, it's
a 4/3 flyer is pretty good.
Yep.
And then you can cast it from exile if you adventured it, or from your hand as its normal enchantment side, which is at the beginning of your end step, you may sacrifice a non-demon creature. If you do, populate.
Ooh.
So that allows you to sort of, if you've made the 4/3 flyer, you get to keep sacking your other tokens to turn them into 4/3s, basically.
Yeah, there's a ton of token makers in the deck. You're getting rid of a 1/1 to then make a copy of your best thing, and you get to do it again with
4/3
Hazel
flyer, yeah.
or whatever you Springheart Nangtuko or your 4/3 flyer. So I just like this card because it just gives you, again, a way to make a more impactful creature on the board early. And if you even don't make the 4/3 flyer, just having the ability to populate, I think is really powerful in the deck.
Yeah.
Next up is, I put a Scoot Swarm in. If you want to add Scoot Swarm to like a deck like this, then making copies of Scoot Swarm also, right? That's like how you win the game. I did not put Scoot Swarm in this upgrade guide, but you can definitely do it. I just don't love that card because maybe I've died to it too many times.
Once you win with Scoot Swarm or die to it, and just nobody can answer it a couple of times, you're like, it's kind of boring, and you end up taking it out. But it is powerful.
Yep. Next up is another token doubler. It's Asika's Chariot. This is 3 in the green for a 4/4 artifact vehicle with crew 4. When it enters the battlefield, you create 2/2/2 green cat creature tokens, and then whenever it attacks, you create a token that's a copy of target token you control. So again, another replicable ability for Hazel here. You're going to have a lot of sweet tokens that you want to make, and then just creating copies of it, very powerful. And it creates tokens on the way in.
Yeah.
So you're going to need that fodder. And so a card that does that and has the ability to copy it is very powerful in my opinion.
And its price was $275. And the next card is the most expensive one on your entire list, Jimmy. It's $17 right now. It's Liliana Dreadhorde General.
It's so good.
So this is, make more tokens, but also works in the Aristocrats theme. 4 black for a 6 loyalty planeswalker. Whenever a creature you control dies, draw a card. That's her static ability.
Very good by itself right there.
+1 says create a 2/2 black zombie creature token.
Yep.
So creating more tokens. -4 is each player sacrifices 2 creatures.
Oh.
Very powerful when you are creating tokens because you don't care so much about your little, squirrels or
sometimes
whatever.
that can just also end the game for your opponent.
Yeah, sometimes they're like, oh, I'm a Spellslinger's deck and I'm a Calamax or something, and that's the only creature I have out, and now I just can never keep it out there. And then the ultimate -9 is each opponent chooses a permanent they control of each permanent type and sacrifices the rest.
Probably not going to get there, but you will have a lot of creatures on your board. You're going to create a lot of tokens. You can either make a zombie or make everyone sack 2. And then you're drawing creatures as well, or drawing cards when those creatures die, when your creatures die. So it's very powerful. It kind of does everything I think the deck wants to do. And I was trying to honestly get up to $50, and I was like, Liliana is a good addition in that case.
Trying to get up to $50.
Yeah. See, I'm a budget kind of guy, I guess. The next category is combat damage. So this is, again, solidifying the win cons. I think it's a better win con to swing out for the win as opposed to try and drain everyone, the Aristocrats.
Which makes sense. When we looked at those stats, there were 4 drain and gains.
Yeah.
And then a lot more sort of pump. So for you to sort of say, okay, I'm going to lean towards what there's already more of makes sense to me. Yep.
Yeah. So the first card up is Champion of Lambholt. It's $1.75. This is just a classic win con in token decks. Creatures with power less than Champion of Lambholt's power can't block creatures you control. It starts as a 1/1, but whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, you put a 1/1 counter on Champion of Lambholt. So your commander's making more token copies. We just put a bunch of creatures and cards in that create tokens and copies and just small things. Champion of Lambholt gets up to like a 5-power creature. All of a sudden, most of your board's unblockable.
Yeah, it's the type of card that almost every time it's in the game, there's a point in the game where it's like, if we don't kill that, we die. Everybody dies.
Yeah, everybody dies, and it's scary.
It becomes the most important thing to kill, and the only way you can live is if it's dead.
Yeah.
The next card was $3. It's Oran Frostfang. It's 3 green for a 2/6 snake. Attacking creatures you control have death touch.
Very good.
And then whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card.
Yeah, so if you're not getting in with like a +5/+5 on Beastmaster Ascension, you can also just get in for a bunch of 1/1 damage that are death touchers, because it's very unfun for your opponents to trade their sweet actual card for a 1/1 token.
Yep.
And then you get to draw more cards off it as well. So this is a great way to, I think this is like a mid-game, start to get the damage in, start to kill people and get them lower, and then you drop like the champion or that the 5 green, whatever, the other Crater Hoof in the deck.
I also love Oran Frostfang as a sort of backup insurance policy of like, my board's decent size. Like a lot of times you're in a
Right.
token deck and somewhere in the mid game, you haven't gone totally crazy because you didn't want to scare everybody, but you've got 7 or 8 things and you're on the precipice of like, I could either make that number go up to 20, in which case they probably board wipe, I'm in big trouble. Or I go Oran Frostfang, attack, draw 6 cards. And now it's like, are you going to kill all my stuff now? Or are you going to try and wait? Because I might win next turn, but my board's not quite big enough that I can't just immediately like go, cool, you killed it. Blah, again. Yeah, so it puts them in a no-win situation sometimes.
Yeah, and also it's like, do I just kill the Oran Frostfang? That feels really bad.
Yeah.
So.
And sometimes they can't because they just didn't see that coming and weren't ready for it.
Yeah, exactly.
And, yeah.
All right, so the nice thing is that we also have a card that's coming up here that works very well with Oran Frostfang. It's Sandstorm Salvager. So this is 2 and a green for a 1/1 human artificer. When it enters the battlefield, you create a 3/3 colorless golem artifact creature token. So that's just a creature token you can replicate. And then the great part about this card is you have a activate ability for 2 and tap it. Put a 1/1 counter on each creature token you control. They gain trample until end of turn. So this with Oran Frostfang means trample, death, touch damage, but also just the ability to do this early and just to keep adding counters to creatures over and over and over again for a very cheap cost means you're going to get big creatures and they all are going to gain trample every time you do it. So this is a great way to either play it, wait to build out your board a little bit more, give them trample, just plus them up a bunch, and then eventually they get to become 4/4 tramplers or whatever, and then that's real dangerous for your opponents.
Yeah, and then just the threat of activation on that, they always have to calculate it in for everything they're doing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was $1.75.
Yeah, but actually the real cost is all the dice you have to bring to the table. Because you're going to have to buy 10 more dice from ULTRAPRO or whatever. Okay, now it's time to talk about big mana. So again, Hazel can make a lot of mana, and I wanted ways to take use of it outside of just casting spells. The first one is actually a card that helps you make more mana. This is the go-to for any token deck where you have extra tokens lying around.
It's kind of the original Hazel.
Yeah, it's Jaheira, Friend of the Forest. I guess Hazel could be around. She is a friend of the forest, right?
Right. There you go. Hazel's in the forest, presumably. She's a squirrel, yeah.
This is just a 2 and a green 2/3 that says tokens you control have tap, add green mana. So turning every single one of your foods, treasures, whatever else you're making into mana dorks is very powerful, as well as just your regular creatures, because we have like the Cryptolithrites in the past, but this deck wants to make non-creature tokens as well, so Jaheira is a better fit for this.
Yep, totally makes sense. It's a sort of a backup to your commander or a force multiplier as well.
Yep, and then we have 2 X spells. The first one is Full Flowering, XX green, and it's a sorcery that just says populate X times.
That's crazy.
Yeah, make a lot of stuff.
And because all of your tokens are making mana, you basically it's not double, if you've got 10, you'll end up with 15 tokens.
Yeah.
If you've got 20, you'll end up with 30.
Yeah,
because it's XX, but yeah. So it half against the number of tokens you've got.
Yeah.
But the best token.
Over and over.
So if you've got a 4/3 flyer, a bunch of treasures, and a squirrel, you just populate the 4/3 flyer.
Yeah, 5 times or whatever. Or you might even be like, I want to have non-creature tokens, right? Oh, no, it's creature tokens only, sorry. Yeah. So...
But if you have an Academy manufacturer, like you were saying, then maybe I want 7 of those, and then the
next time you make a single food.
Well, and one of them is a treasure or whatever.
Right. Yeah. Pest Infestation is the other one. It's XX green. Destroy up to X target artifacts and/or enchantments, and you create twice X 1/1 black and green pest creature tokens that have when this creature dies, you gain 1 life. So this could just be a full artifact enchantment board wipe across the table. And then you get, so if you put 5 in for X, you get 10 1/1s. You don't even have to destroy 5 things at that point, right? It's up to. So you could actually do this on an empty board and just instantly make a board state.
Better if you're destroying stuff, though.
Yeah, much better.
So those last 2 were $1.50.
Yeah.
And Jaheira was $4.50. I don't know if we said that. So your total here was under $40, $39.25.
Yeah. And I would say there's actually a lot of great cards in the main set that you might want to add to a deck like this. And the cards that I didn't really do as much cutting for are the new cards, because they aren't necessarily the strongest cards in the deck. I have 1 new card I think I cut, or 2 new cards I cut, but that's an easy place to look if you're like, hey, what do I want to add in cards but I don't want to take away? Well, some of the new cards are more oftentimes like, this is just for another strategy that's not necessarily this deck. The Odd Acorn Gang, for instance, might not be as great in the deck anymore. So it feels
not great in the deck, even out of the box. So
well, you're probably going to use it to give a creature +2/+2, but yeah, it's not awesome.
Okay, so let's talk about the 10 cards that you're suggesting to cut out to make room for the 10 cards you just added.
Yeah, so the first one was, it is kind of a ramp card, which is a little sad because I think you'd probably want to substitute more ramp in this deck anyway, but it's Wolf Willow Haven. This is a 1 green enchantment aura. Whenever you tap the land for mana, it adds an additional green, and then it has a 4 green activated ability to sack it, and you make a 2/2 wolf only during your turn. It's just very clunky, very slow, and I don't love it.
2 unimpactful, yeah.
Yeah, and 5 mana to make a 2/2 at sorcery speed is, I mean, just relating to the cards we just talked about, it's very, very weak.
I feel like if you ever do that, you've lost the game.
Yeah.
If that's the best thing you can do, you're not winning.
You're not winning, yeah. Next up is Nested Shambler. This is a 1 mana zombie. When it dies, you create X tapped 1/1 green squirrels, where X is its power. So there are pump effects in the deck and all that stuff, but I don't think this is the kind of card that is going to also win you the game compared to Champion of Lambhold or Sandstorm Salvager. And the squirrels, again, aren't as relevant.
All right.
Next up is Squirrel Sovereign, 1 green. Other squirrels you control get +1/+1. We don't need the Lord effect. It only affects a small percentage of the cards in the deck, and even less so now that we're doing these cuts. And then in that same line, Chatterstorm. It's a 1 green, create a 1/1 green squirrel creature token with Storm. I would love this more if it was at an instant speed, so you could do it on someone else's turn when they've cast like 7 or 8 spells.
Right,
but you have to do it on your own. Yeah, I think there's a lot of 4-drops and stuff in this deck too. You're more likely playing a 4-drop and a 2-drop in a turn, and then Shatterstorm for 3 squirrels is meaningless. And then it's sad, but Squirrel Nest I think also has to go. It's cute, but it's 3 mana to attach to a land, and then the land has to no longer be a mana land to make a squirrel.
So it's after that, it's 1 mana per turn to get a squirrel.
Yeah, exactly.
4 for the first one, 5 for 2, 6 for 3, 7 for 4. At what point are we happy with this? Yeah, you really need to be able to untap it in some way and abuse that part of your land, like your
to
untap.
keep it going. Yeah.
Yeah, not, Earthcraft is the classic one, but you don't need that. You need some sort of synergy. Otherwise, Squirrel's Nest is just not efficient enough.
Yeah, exactly. And then I cut 1 Aristocrats piece here. It is Poison Tip Archer. So this says whenever another creature dies, each opponent loses 1 life. This card gets you killed in games, I think, because creatures start dying. Everyone's like, why are we losing? Oh, it's you with your Reach Death Toucher. Well, we're just going to get rid of your card or get rid of you. And I think Aristocrats decks always have this, is if your cards aren't gaining you life, then the hate you're drawing from just draining people life means you're going to get an equal amount of life loss as well from people just attacking you or doing things to you. And so cards like this, I don't love as much, especially in this new build, because it just draws in hate. And if you're not trying to win with it quickly or gain enough life to outpace the hate you're going to get from being the Aristocrats deck, you're just actually putting yourself in a difficult position.
It's interesting. We didn't do a category for how many sacrifice outlets there are in this deck. I didn't see a lot when we were going through and reading it through, and I think that's sort of the key to this card.
Yeah.
Because if you're just
great if you have like 20 creatures and you sack them all at once, right?
You need a sack outlet to make this, because you play it, then you just sit there with your sack outlet and go, well, if you try and do stuff to me, maybe I can do 20 to everybody.
Yeah.
So that's a totally different proposition than play it and just trying to get incremental value over turns, which often plays out the way you said.
Yeah, everyone's like, wait, what? Oh, it's that. Next up is another 4-drop. It's Skyfisher Spider. I often look through these upgrades and go, what's the 4-drop slot? What can I cut from there? 4 and 5.
Just because there's so many.
There's so many, yeah. And when you have like 3 4-drops in your opening hand, it feels awful. Skyfisher Spider, just ETB, sacrifices another creature to destroy non-land permanent. And then when it dies, you gain a life for each creature card in your graveyard and you exile it. There's a ton of removal already in this deck. I think this card doesn't have any synergies outside of just being a 4-mana clunky removal spell. And you have to sacrifice something as well to do it. So I think with your Maelstrom Pulses and everything else in the deck, you don't necessarily need the Skyfisher Spider on top.
Okay.
Plague Crafter is the next cut. This is an Edict effect. You would say, hey, this is great in the deck because you Edict away your 1/1 and they all Edict the creature away. You don't have a way to repeat this effect. It's really bad later on in the game, and I put in Liliana. So I think Plague Crafter at this point is much less impressive.
Yeah, that's the kind of card, just like Squirrel's Nest, where it's very good, but only in the circumstance where there's synergy. And in this case, synergy means recurability.
Yeah, you're Chthonian nightmaring it back or whatever.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. And then the 2 new cards I cut were Gourmand's Talent. So this is the saga that when you gain life, you create a 3/3 after you level it up, and then if you level up it again, you put 1/1 counters on each of your creatures. It costs a whopping 8 mana to get to level 3. And I don't think this deck is a food-themed deck enough to justify what's happening here.
Yeah, you might be in a situation where you're having trouble even gaining the life to kind of get it to go off.
Yeah, I mean, and you don't want to be sacking your Talisman of Resilient to be a food
You don't even
token.
really want to sack your food tokens. You want to tap them for mana with your commander.
Exactly,
So,
yeah. And then because we put in some more pump effects, I thought the worst of the pump effects was Insatiable Frugivore, which is at 3 in the black. You can make food and exile cards to make more, and then you pay 4 mana to sacrifice X food to give your creatures menace and +X/+O. So because we have less food creation in the deck, we took out Gourmand's Talon, and I think it's just clunky. You're getting the extra foods from this entering is going to be difficult as well. I was like, we can get rid of one, and we have sort of a replacement with another one with the Sandstorm dude. I forget his name. Yeah.
It's interesting to me, and I'm sort of curious, because I think another cut based on your cuts.
Yeah.
Because you cut 4 squirrel making cards, and there was only 15, so there's 11 left. Odd Acorn Gang feels really bad. The
less squirrels that
I think at 15 it's not that great. So as it goes down, so I could see cutting that as one of the cuts as well.
Yeah, if you like one of these cards, let's say you just want Wolf of Little Haven to keep your ramp up, then you could cut the Odd Acorn Gang. It's a 5-mana card that works great in a squirrel deck. Maybe take all your cuts and put it into a new deck. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think you want a Chatterfang type deck, or a deck with a lot of squirrels, or that the commander creates squirrels, so you guarantee creating squirrels or something like that.
And there's another upgrade guide where you take Hazel out, right? Or no, you probably keep Hazel in, but you have the Odd Acorn Gang in, and you remove the effects that aren't as squirrel relevant, because there's a lot of rat makers and stuff in the deck, and you replace it with squirrel makers instead. But I don't know if there's enough support to really make that with a 10 card in, 10 card out. This is honestly kind of a difficult upgrade guide. I think at the end of it, I would love to cut more cards and put in just your regular rampant growth type effects just to get the mana part of it smoothed out, because you have a 4-mana commander, right? So 2-mana ramp, it looks really good in the deck with 3 visits and all that stuff.
Yeah, I think this is a good sort of lesson on how to upgrade a precon, and think about upgrading any precon, which is you figure out what the deck's doing, and then you make a choice about what to focus on.
Yeah.
And then that tells you what is outside of that focus is superfluous, and you say, well, I don't need these, and I need more of this. And then I liked one of the things you said, which is like, oh, there's a bunch of pump effects. I added a couple, so I want to take out some because I don't want too many. And so what are the worst ones or what are in there?
Right, to
and that
upgrade
made that cut a lot easier, right? Well, there's 7 of those. I just rank them in my head. This is the last 1 or 2. That one goes because I put this one in, which is better than all the other ones or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
So very cool.
Okay. Yeah, the deck plays basically how you would think. Get some token makers out, pray that you play your commander and no one kills it, and then activate it, and then just start sort of creating that engine going downhill.
Yeah, you really need the tokens kind of first, then Hazel comes out. Get Hazel untapped and get at least one big, activation of a lot of mana. And with that turn, kind of catapult yourself enough forward that now they're in that position where, well, if I kill Hazel, he keeps all the stuff that he made with the mana, or I start to pick away the stuff, in which case he still has access to Hazel. Mm-hmm. And you want him in that position of like, either of those paths, you're doing pretty powerful things.
Yeah, and giving your opponents more chances to also make mistakes, which is sort of something we don't really talk about much in Commander, but the less optimally they play because they just don't know what to remove, the better your shot is at winning the game.
All right. To the listeners, what do you think about this Squirreled Away deck? Are you excited about it? Are there any new cards we talked about that you're particularly stoked and are going to go in maybe even non-squirrel related decks?
Yeah, there's a lot of new cards.
Yeah, tell us what you think about it. What do you think about the new cards?
And of course the other precons as well. If there's one that really excites you and you think the squirrels, they just want to have fun, they want to win games, so let us know.
Squirrels just want to have fun.
And of course you can pick up these precons, new cards from Bloomburrow, as well as pre-order cards from future sets at cardkingdom.com/command. That's our sponsor for the show. If you support us through Card Kingdom, you're supporting the content that we create here, and you're getting the cards that you already are going to be getting because you love Magic. You play Magic and you're going to buy those cards anyway. And this time you get to get them from an awesome place called Card Kingdom that conveniently ships them to you in one single package. So you don't have to fuss about getting multiple packages in the mail, maybe getting something lost. Whether there's a storm in Texas and you order from there, oh no, your cards come all soaked. No. Guarantee that protection with a single package from cardkingdom.com/command. And they have a huge inventory. We've been trusting them to get all of our decks together for stuff like Game Nights Live. And the consistency and reliability that is from Card Kingdom is why we've been with them for so long and why we love their service. And you will too, cardkingdom.com/command.
Yeah, they are unmatched. Another company that we trust for our own stuff is ULTRAPRO. If you go to ultrapro.com/command, you can find all kinds of cool deals on their website all the time. They've got tons of discounts. They've got the agreement with Wizards, so they have Bloomburrow artwork on sleeves, on deck boxes.
The Hazel artwork specifically, I think, right?
Yep, they got a lot of that awesome stuff. And they also have this new line of Mana 8 products that we keep talking about because they look really, really awesome. These are the stark white pieces. Again, playmats, binders, deck boxes, sleeves with the mana symbols on them.
Apex sleeves too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And they're Apex sleeves, which we stopped talking about because they've been around for a little while now. But Apex sleeves are a printed sleeve formula that ULTRAPRO spent years developing that is very sturdy, but also just has that great shuffle feel. And if you've ever shuffled with printed back sleeves,
they can get sticky, they can get stuck.
We all know that's an iffy process, historically.
Yeah.
ULTRAPRO solved that. So ultrapro.com/command is a great place to pick up Mana 8 products, Apex sleeves, Bloomburrow themed stuff, anything you're looking for.
All right, and a big thanks to everyone here at the Command Zone. Damon Lenz, Eric Lam, Gaurav Galati, Jordan Pridgeon, Jamie Block, Manson Lung, Josh Murphy, Jake Boss, Sam Waldo, Evan Limburger, Katie Cole, Mitch Trafford, and Rachel Weeks. That's it, everybody. Let us know also what you thought about the combo episode of both the Precon reveal and the upgrade guide together. If you enjoy that or not, or if you like them as separate. But let us know in the comments. We love that feedback as it helps improve our content over time.
All right, everybody. There will be a lot more Bloomburrow coverage coming up, so make sure that you like and subscribe and all that. And until then, we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Peace.
For your attention. For further inquiries, send an email to commandcast@rocketjump.com or ask us on Twitter @JFWong and @JoshLeeQuai. See you later, alligator.
Greetings, humans.